everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mrs. Danielle DeVita. So, I have an episode for you, and this is going to be a little pillow talk. I want to share some of my flaws that I've had in my marriage and how I feel like me making the change actually changed my marriage. I I think that, of course, my husband making changes as well, contributed. But I think when I held myself accountable, when I made some changes to the things that I was doing, when I was convicted of things that I've done wrong, because some things my husband just never told me, but I know that they made a difference when I've made a change. So I'll start by saying, so my husband has a different perspective on these same situations. So the exact events happened, but how I describe it, um, and what it was is a different version of how he saw that exact same situation. So uh, one time we were, I think when I was pregnant with our second child, we were going to the movies, and I saw this guy get out his car. He was at a distance from us, but it looked like he was approaching us in an aggressive manner. So I felt like we were going to be attacked. My husband sees it as he was approaching us um, heavily, in an aggressive way, but he thought we were just someone else. And when he saw that we weren't who we were, he walked away. But I saw it as he was approaching us. Something was in his hand. And when he saw my husband or whatever it is that he saw, he just, backed down and then left. But so in that event, when that happened, I was pregnant. All I could do is get back in the car because I did not have what I needed at my disposal, like my immediate disposal. But my husband was out of the car, so he was prepared to do whatever. But basically, in that situation, we were going to the movies, like I said, and when we were at the movies, I was so uneasy. I was thinking like, oh my God, what if he comes? What's happening? It was at the point that I thought, wow, um, what what is happening here, and what if this person comes back? And it to me, I was in a sense paranoid. Now apparently he didn't realize how paranoid I was until later on, which is, um I later, so at the right after that time, I was like kind of upset with him, like, oh, why didn't you do this, why didn't you do that, you know why this, why that, why didn't you act like this, why didn't you respond like this? I was saying all those things, and he was like, well, I didn't see it the way you said. And I'm just like, why you didn't do this, you didn't act like this, you were just all nonchalant about it, you act like it wasn't that serious, blah blah blah. And then I think, 2 weeks had gone by, and I was convicted because here I am feeling some kind of way, and he was feeling this way, and I was discouraging him from feeling how he felt in that situation. And then I was more so convicted because, do I want him to feel the same way I felt? Do I want my husband to be paranoid and living in fear and nervous, and do I want that to be for my husband? No. Actually, he should have been how he was. He was calm, he was collected, he was prepared for whatever may happen. So, of course, he's not going to see it as an attack because he felt that he was getting um, ahead of the situation. He saw the situation, he assessed it, and he was prepared to do whatever. And he was not he was looking at the exits, looking at the door, and all of this. He was prepared for what may happen, or what to do in case, but he was calm about it. And I was so convicted. I had to go to him and I said, I truly apologize that I I was upset with how you as a man responded to that situation, and I was so wrong to make you want to feel like how I felt as a woman. And that was wrong of me. And he was like, "Oh, well, it's not that serious." And I'm like, "It is." Because in so many times, imagine all the other times I've done that. Wish that he felt what I felt, did what I did. But men are not going to do what we do as women. I don't know if that makes sense. Um, and then there's other times where I'm like, why didn't he do this? Why didn't he do that? And he should do this the way I want him to do it. But he's his own self. Men do things differently than women. So I can't expect for him to react and to do something the way I would do it. We have two different personalities. Um, so I think that me learning that we are not the same, women and men are not the same, and accept that we're different and that we're going to come from different point of views instead of making it an argument. Men view things differently. They assess situations differently. They react, they respond, and they handle certain things differently. Um, and I think the better we understand that, the more likely we're able to accept and love people for who they are instead of trying to change them. I will say for a fact that when I've come to the point to realize that I'm not perfect, and I should not have these unreasonable expectations on my husband. But I need to be the best that I can be in our relationship and how I speak to him, being mindful of what I say, when I say it, um, being mindful that because we're two different people, we're not going to come to the same result. We're not going to have the same perspective, and we're not going to do things the same way. When I come to that point, I've learned to accept him for who he is, embrace him. And when I get to that point where I'm wanting him to do something my way, I pray. Another good example, to going to a different point, but similar. Um, when I want, like, sometimes we have to be allow our husbands or our men to be vulnerable with us and not use it for a self-serving purpose. Um, my husband confided in me and asked me, "Hey, I want to do this X, Y, and Z." It was something career, business wise, and I could have said, "No, don't do this," because I wanted him to do this because this would serve us in a certain way. This would serve me in a certain way. But before I could answer, I was immediately like convicted, like, "Hey, don't give him the answer that will just serve you, um, or just serve him. Give the answer that will help him make sure that whatever decision he makes is going to be the best decision for the house. He's going to seek the direction. If you're Christian, if you're religious, seek the direction of God, because that's what we do." So my response was, "You know what? I want to say this, but I know it's not right. I think you should consult God. I think that's the best answer." And then immediately I prayed that he would get the wisdom and the knowledge he needed to come up with that answer. And he did. And I'm glad that I wasn't self-serving. And so many times we as people, we only want to give advice that we think would be best served for us, or just something that is instant gratification, even if it is for the other person, rather than what's right and what's best. And I think men sometimes do not struggle with this as much as women, because men are more logical. So they see, if I make this decision, then this would happen. Whereas sometimes we as women think off of emotion. So I think it's important to not be self serving, but to think before we speak, to learn to be a little bit more. analytical. And it's not extremely hard for me because I am an analytical person, but I'm also passionate. When I do my videos, you can see the passion I have about certain things. And I think that when I've come to the point that I was the best version of myself, that I've learned to be more patient, more understanding, more mindful, I was able to unleash the love that my husband had for me. He was able to open up more and provide more because I've changed who I am. And I say because of that, I'm thankful. And this is what I believe marriage does sometimes. It pulls the best out you. It can pull the worst out of some people. Um, but if you really want to make it work, this person will challenge you, because if they are healthy and they want the best, they're asking and demanding for the best, and you also want to give the best. Sometimes you're convicted before you even do it, or they tell you and you're convicted of how you treated them. And my husband has always been one to say, I love you randomly, so I never knew, I never not knew how he felt about me. But sometimes when I feel like I should be more mindful when he says it, because now when I sit and I rest in that moment and think, wow, we could be eating and he says, I love you. We could be watching TV and he randomly says, I love you. I could be changing our baby's diaper and he goes, I love you. Like, just to rest in that moment and to just marinate in that. That's amazing that I have someone that will tell me he loves me and give me that security and that assurance, and this is where it comes into that submission thing. When you have someone who does right by you, when you have someone who treats you well, someone who pushes you to greater heights, pushes you, challenges you to be the best that you can be, when you have someone that does that, they lead, they provide, they do all of these things. It's easy to submit to that kind of man. And I think that's the thing that sometimes men, I wish that you would kind of think, you think, okay, I want her to submit to me, but this is what I need to do. And I don't think my husband, he never demanded me to be submissive. He in action did what he needed to do that would prove that if I honored him, if I loved him like I said I do, and if he treasured me and loved me like he's told to do in the Bible, I should have no problem submitting to that kind of man, because he provides, because he leads, because he makes decisions for this family that benefits not just him, but for me and our children. Because he leads in love, elevate me, aspire for greatness, and pushes me for greatness, right? Because he shows that he's committed to us, So I think that I'm grateful for him. And I think that when we sit and just, let all of that marinate, what kind of man do I have? Okay, he's good, he's this, he's that, he's this. How do I show that I appreciate this man in words and in action? And I realized at one point I wasn't doing that, but when I started to change my attitude, change how I spoke to him, how I touched him, and I'm not saying like I hit him or anything, but how you touch, what you say, your reaction to things. When we in our first year in a marriage, it was like our communication was not well. But now we can disagree, and the disagreement dissipates like almost immediately, because it's like, oh, so you know you're upset with me. Why are you upset? You act like you ain't got none, and it just becomes this big joke. And and I think that almost, I realize now, every disagreement ends up with some type of joke, some type of you know something funny. I mean, we handle the disagreement, but it takes the load off. I am genuinely happy being with him, and it's more than just I want him as a companion. I need him in my life. I need his energy. I need his love. Um and I want everyone else to experience that, but I wanted to come a little bit more transparent that I was not always like this. I was critical. I I saw things that were wrong so often. I wanted him to be perfect. If he didn't do things the way I liked it, now I get to the point of, well, I'll just do it myself instead of complain. Or I don't want to nag. I've never been like a nagger, but I've gotten to the point now where I'm not critical. Because I check my own flaws. What am I not doing? Now, if there's something that we need to talk about, a fundamental issue, we will do that. But I've gotten to the point of, where am I doing wrong? Where am I saying something that sounds disrespectful, sound belittling, sound like I'm speaking to him as a child? Where is that level of respect? How do I want others to see our relationship? And that's how I need to act, not just in public, but at home. So, and every time I think, oh, well, he's not doing this, I counter it with, what can I do better? And in doing that, I have found that I have fallen more deeply in love with him, because now we're able to see more. We're exposing more of ourselves, because more invisible walls have come down. And not to say we were boarded up, but there's walls that you don't know that's there. And we become more vulnerable the more we open up, and the more we enlighten each other with our fears and our pain. And that comes with time. And you have to understand, we've been married 11 and a half years. That comes with time. Because what we did in year 5 was not the same as year 7, and sure not was the same as year 10, and definitely not with year 11. Each time I had to grow. Each time he had to grow. I mean, there's been times where he would ask, can you do this for me? And I'm like so tired, and I want to be like, I'm too tired. And I catch myself, and I'm like, what am I saying? Like, I'll do anything for you. As much as you do for me, the least I can get up. The least I can do is get up and get you something to drink. The least I can do is to go over here and get you something that you wanted to eat that's different from the refrigerator. The least I can do. And I know that there's reciprocity in that, because the more I do that without him doing it first, even if I do it and he hadn't done it before, then I know when he sees that, he's like, wow. And, then he will do the same for me. Like, oh, I know you're tired. And he's like, no, I got you. And I think that if we stop waiting on our men, because remember, we choose the men that we're with. If I decide I'm going to be with this person, I don't need to change them. I just need to pull out the best version of themselves by pulling out the best version in myself. That is all I have for you. I just want you to know that me being more feminine, me opening up, being less controlling, let's not taking over situations. And one other thing I wanted to say that I've done, because I know this is something that men, you probably feel like, oh, why do women do this? Every time my husband used to ask about going out to eat, he's like, what do you want? And I'm like, oh, I don't care. And then he picks something. I'm like, I don't want this. I don't want this. And he's like, lady, you know? And then I had to catch myself. Like, I think, you know, men sometimes want to choose. We don't have to always choose. And sometimes I think that they hate that we really are indecisive at times. And to be honest, I don't like to be um, indecisive at all. I'm actually more decisive than not. But in that situation, like most women, they say, "Oh, I'll, you know, yeah, I'll go anywhere to eat," and then they don't know what they really want. So what I do now is he'll say, what do you want to eat? And I'll say, well, I'll tell you what I don't want. I don't want fast food, or I don't want Italian, or I don't want this. But anything else you can pick. And one time he did that, and he was like, okay, well, we won't go to those places that you don't want. Let's go here. And then I was thinking to myself, like, And so he looked at me like he's ready for, he's like, so what do you think? And I'm like, well, I told you it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter whether I want it or not. I told you that you choose where we go and I'll go. So I'll just eat wherever you choose. And he's like, hmm, hmm. And I went there and I ate. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad that he made the decision of where we go, because if it was up to me, and I wouldn't still have an answer of where we wanted. So I think we should look at little small things like that, you know, and say what we mean and mean what we say, because men can't read our minds. If we say we're staying, we're staying. If we say we're leaving, we're leaving. If we say we don't want anything to eat, we don't want any, then it needs to be that. If we say we don't want to party, or we do want to party, like, men can't read us, if we say we're not fine, then let it be that we're really not fine. If we say, like, I think that men, they're gonna, whatever we say is what it is. So I think we need to be honest with ourselves. And that line of communication will open up the doors for us to both, men and women, to be vulnerable with each other when we're honest with each other, and have difficult conversations. So thanks for tuning in. If you are new, welcome to this channel. More to come. You are able to listen to my podcast, Feminine Energy with Danielle DeVita, as well. Take care.